Water. It falls from the sky, flows through rivers, and pools beneath our feet. It nourishes life, grows food, and sustains civilizations. And yet, water isn't free. Not anymore. In a world facing record-breaking droughts, vanishing snowpacks, and shrinking aquifers, water has become the most contested resource of the 21st century. It's no longer just a life source. It's leverage, it's currency, it's power. Farmers are told to do more with less. Cities are expanding faster than their reservoirs can handle. Industries pump millions of gallons to cool factories or frack the ground, while rural communities watch their wells run dry. And all the while, the question lingers in the background. Who gets to decide who gets the water? Because when the rains stop falling, survival becomes a negotiation. And when supply can't meet demand, justice becomes optional. In this chapter, The Battle for Water Rights, we dig beneath the surface. We uncover the tensions, systems, and stories behind this escalating. In Section 2, we ask the fundamental question, who owns the water? You might think it's a public good. The reality is far more complicated. In Section 3, we explore the growing clash between farms, cities, and industry. Three giants fighting for the same shrinking resource. Section 4 takes us into the emerging world of water markets, where water is bought and sold like stock, and the consequences ripple far and wide. In Section 5, we amplify the voices of Indigenous communities who have protected water for generations, yet are too often denied access to it. Section 6 exposes the dark undercurrents, corruption, power grabs, and water theft, where the rules don't matter if you're rich enough to rewrite them. Section 7 examines how climate change is breaking the legal systems meant to protect water, and how laws built for abundance are failing in a time of scarcity. In Section 8, we ask the hard question, can we share? And we spotlight real-world solutions that offer fairness, stewardship, and sustainability. Finally, in Section 9, we imagine what a just water future could look like and what it will take to get there. Because this fight is bigger than policy. It's about people, and it's about the future of farming itself. Water isn't free, and what happens next will define everything. Who owns the water? It seems like a simple question, but ask a farmer, a lawyer, a tribal leader, and a city planner, and you'll get 4 different answers. Because water isn't really owned the way land is. It's allocated, permitted, accessed, and far too often denied. In most countries, surface water, rivers, lakes, reservoirs is technically public, but access is controlled by a maze of rights systems. First come, first served. Riparian rights, prior appropriation. And in many places, these rules were written over a century ago, when water seemed endless and the people using it looked very different from those farming today. Then there's groundwater, the hidden supply. In some regions, landowners can pump it freely. In others, it's tightly regulated, or not at all. This patchwork creates winners and losers. Mega farms with senior rights can divert millions of gallons a day, while smallholders a mile away watch their wells run dry. Meanwhile, cities buy up farmland just for the water right. And Indigenous communities, many were never granted formal water access in the first place, despite stewarding watersheds for generations. As climate change shrinks supply, the question of ownership becomes a question of justice. Who gets water during droughts? Who decides what's essential? Who profits when water is scarce? And perhaps most importantly, should water ever be bought and sold like oil? Because the way we define ownership will shape the future of food, farming, and life itself. Water doesn't just grow food. It cools power plants, cleans factory floors, fills swimming pools, flushes toilets, fuels economies. And in a time of scarcity, everyone wants more of it. Farmers need water to grow our food. Cities need it to serve millions of residents. Industries need it to stay profitable. And when the rains don't come, these needs collide. Across the American West, 1 acre of farmland can use thousands of gallons of water per day. But so can a single suburban neighborhood. Lawns, golf courses, fountains, they may not feed us, but they compete for the same shrinking supply. In California, agriculture consumes roughly 80% of all developed water. Yet it's cities that often get the blame when shortages hit. Meanwhile, industrial users, from bottling plants to lithium mines, continue operations even as nearby communities ration water by the gallon. This isn't just about volume, it's about priority. Who gets cut off first when water runs low? In many regions, it's farms. Even though they feed the cities, they're often last in line for municipal water. Farmers are forced to fallow fields, cull livestock, or drill deeper into collapsing aquifers while city sprinklers keep running. But cities argue they can't survive without water either. Schools, hospitals, fire departments all depend on stable supplies. And industry? It fuels the economy, provides jobs, and drives exports. So who wins? The answer too often depends on politics, not need. Wealth, lobbying power, and legal leverage shape outcomes more than sustainability. And as populations grow and climate stress intensifies, the tension between farms, cities, and industry will only sharpen. This is the age of trade-offs, and unless we rethink how we value water, the ones who grow our food may be the first to lose their access to it. What happens when water becomes a commodity? Not a right, not a shared resource, but something to buy, sell, and speculate on. Welcome to the world of water markets. Born from the idea of efficiency, water trading systems are designed to move water where it's needed most. In theory, they allow farmers to sell excess water to cities. Utilities can purchase rights during dry years. Prices rise and fall based on demand, just like grain, oil, or gold. But unlike other commodities, we can't live without water. In Australia, one of the world's most mature water markets, prices have soared during drought years, putting small farmers in direct competition with hedge funds and corporate buyers. A glass of water becomes a financial asset. And for those with the deepest pockets, the thirst of the land is just another line on a balance sheet. In the US, especially in California, similar trends are emerging. Private investment firms are buying up agricultural land, not to farm it, but to gain the rights that come with it. Some hold that water until prices peak, then sell to the highest bidder. This isn't just a shift in economics, it's a shift in power. Water markets tend to favor those with legal expertise, financial leverage, and institutional access. Small-scale farmers and indigenous communities, already marginalized, often find themselves priced out, even from the water that once flowed freely through their land. Supporters argue markets increase flexibility and drive innovation. Critics warn they deepen inequality and turn survival into speculation. So we ask, should something so essential, so life-giving, be for sale? In the age of climate stress, water markets may be inevitable, but left unchecked, they risk turning scarcity into profit and farmers into collateral damage. Long before water rights were codified in law, long before reservoirs, dams, or markets, there were the rivers, and there were the people who lived by them. For indigenous communities across the globe, water isn't just a resource. It's sacred, it's identity, it's life. In North America, tribes like the Hopi, Diné, Navajo, and Yurok managed water through spiritual, seasonal, and ecological relationships that sustained ecosystems for thousands of years. They practiced dry farming, seasonal migrations, and selective use of springs, ways of living that respected nature's limits. But colonization rewrote the rules. Water rights in the US, Australia, and Canada were largely distributed through Western legal systems, ignoring Indigenous stewardship entirely. Rivers were dammed, sacred springs were diverted, and generations of native farmers were cut off from the very waters that sustained their ancestors. In Australia, many Aboriginal communities were excluded from the nation's water markets. In Canada, long-term boil water advisories remain a stain on basic human rights. In the US, court battles like Winters versus United States promise tribes access, but real enforcement often falls short. Still, Indigenous resistance runs deep. Today, tribes like the Gila River Indian Community in Arizona are using legal settlements to reclaim water, restoring traditional farming with heirloom crops like tepary beans and drought-resilient corn. In California, Karuk and Yurok peoples are leading river restoration and fire management practices that rebuild ecosystems while honoring ancestral knowledge. These aren't just legal victories, they're cultural survival, and they hold a lesson for the rest of us, that living with water isn't about control, it's about relationship. As we face a future of increasing scarcity, the wisdom of those who've lived in balance with water for millennia may be our greatest guide. But recognition alone is not enough. Justice means access. Justice means reparations. When water becomes scarce, it becomes power. And wherever there is power, corruption is never far behind. Around the world, the struggle for water is no longer just about supply. It's about control. And in too many places, that control has slipped into the hands of the few. In India, illegal bore wells tap into aquifers at alarming rates, siphoning groundwater faster than it can be replenished. In California's Central Valley, wealthy landowners buy up water rights and hoard them, leaving smaller farmers dry during droughts. In South Africa, water meant for agriculture is diverted by elites for mining operations and private estates. These aren't isolated cases. They're symptoms of a deeper problem. Water theft, both legal and illegal, is on the rise. In Australia's Murray-Darling Basin, billions of taxpayer dollars were spent on water recovery programs, only to discover that some agribusinesses had gamed the system, claiming subsidies while secretly pumping water upstream. An audit exposed tea. Even in developed nations, enforcement is weak. Monitoring wells, underfunded. Illegal pumping, rarely prosecuted. Water data, often kept secret, hidden behind bureaucracy or private contracts. The result? A water economy where those with money and influence bend the rules, while small farmers and indigenous communities are left to struggle. But whistleblowers, journalists, and local watchdogs are fighting back. In Spain, environmental activists have exposed massive groundwater theft by industrial strawberry farms. In the US, community groups are tracking unauthorized diversions using drones and open-source data. And in Kenya, farmers are pushing for transparency in local water boards, demanding fair allocation and public oversight. The fight for clean, fair, and accessible water isn't just about policy, it's about accountability. Because without transparency, corruption festers. And without justice, sustainability is just a slogan. If we want a future where water nourishes communities, instead of fueling conflict, we need to ask hard questions. We need to follow the pipelines, the paperwork, and the power. Because in the age of water wars, the theft of a river is the theft of a future. Climate change and water law. Water law was built for a different world. Many of today's water rights systems were written over a century ago, when rainfall was more predictable, rivers ran fuller, and populations were a fraction of today's size. But now, climate change is rewriting the rules, and the law is struggling to catch up. Droughts are lasting longer. Snowpacks are melting earlier. Rainfall comes in erratic bursts. Too much all at once, then nothing for months. In this new climate, old legal systems, based on historical flows, are breaking down. In the Western United States, for example, water rights follow the doctrine of first in time, first in right. That means those who claimed water 100 years ago still have priority, even if their usage today is wasteful or unsustainable. Meanwhile, newer farmers and growing towns find themselves at the back of the line, forced to cut back first, even as their need grows. Globally, the situation isn't much better. In the Andes, glacial meltwater that once fed communities year-round is disappearing, but legal frameworks haven't adapted to manage scarcity. In Australia, climate models predicted reduced flows in the Murray-Darling Basin, but allocations continued as if the droughts were temporary. In many African nations, water laws remain fragmented, some based on colonial codes, others on informal systems, leaving farmers in legal limbo. The result? Confusion, conflict, collapse. But some places are rethinking the system. In California, new groundwater laws now require local agencies to develop sustainability plans, linking withdrawals to long-term aquifer health. In South Africa, the Constitution recognizes water as a basic human right, prioritizing access over ownership. And in New Zealand, Indigenous worldviews are influencing water governance, treating rivers as living entities with legal rights. Climate change is forcing a legal reckoning. We can no longer manage water based on what used to be. We need policies that are. Section 8, Solutions, Fair Access and Shared Stewardship, from Chapter 5 of Farming in the Age of Water Wars. If water is life, then how we share it is the test of our humanity. Around the world, farmers, communities, and policymakers are waking up to a hard truth. We can't engineer our way out of scarcity. We have to cooperate out of it. Fair access to water starts with redefining ownership, not as a commodity to be hoarded, but as a common good to be stewarded. That means moving beyond first come, first served towards systems that prioritize need, efficiency, and sustainability. In Arizona, some irrigation districts are trading water not for profit, but for preservation, partnering with cities and tribes to keep rivers flowing. In Spain, ancient water tribunals still meet weekly to resolve irrigation disputes peacefully. No lawyers, no judges, just farmers. In India, decentralized water budgeting empowers villagers to manage their own groundwater collectively, tracking inputs and outputs. Technology can help, but it must be in service of equity. Real-time monitoring tools now show who's using how much and where it's going. Smart irrigation systems cut waste. Open data platforms increase transparency, exposing overuse and enabling better planning. But justice isn't just technical, it's cultural. Indigenous water governance offers lessons in balance, humility, and long-term care. In Canada, First Nations are co-managing watersheds. In Australia, Aboriginal water rights are gaining recognition not only as legal claims, but as expressions of ancestral duty. And around the world, more women are being included in water councils, bringing perspectives historically left out of decision-making. The future lies in shared stewardship, where farmers, cities, industries, and Indigenous nations sit at the same table, where the question isn't, how much can I take, but how much can we sustain? Water knows no boundaries. Neither should our solutions, because if we want our food systems to endure, our communities to thrive, and our landscapes to recover, we must treat water not as a fight to win, but as a trust to honor, together. What does a just water future look like? It's not a return to the past. It's a step forward into something wiser. A future where water isn't a weapon or a privilege, but a promise. A promise that no one will be left thirsty because of profit margins. That farms won't be forced to fail so cities can grow unchecked. That Indigenous voices won't just be heard, they'll lead. In a just water future, rights don't flow only to those who can pay. They flow to those who care, conserve, and collaborate. It's a world where water isn't hoarded behind gates and meters, but shared through trust, stewardship, and science. Where every drop used to grow food is honored. Where rivers are allowed to breathe, and aquifers are given time to rest. Imagine it. Farmers using real-time soil data to water only what's needed. Communities holding local councils to manage shared wells. Children learning that water is sacred, not just a utility, and policies shaped not by lobbyists, but by those who depend on the land to live. This isn't a fantasy, it's already beginning. In pilot projects, Indigenous-led governance, and regenerative farms that treat water as life, not leverage. The path won't be easy. Power rarely gives up control without pressure. But change doesn't start in courtrooms or legislatures. It starts on farms, in villages, at kitchen tables. It starts when we stop asking, what can I take? And start asking, what can I give back? A just water future isn't built with scarcity in mind. It's built with solidarity. Because in the end, water reminds us of something we often forget. We're all downstream from someone. And the health of our farms, our rivers, our future depends on how well we learn to share together.